I have a blank TERA memo here that VA uses, uh, and I think it's maybe up on the screen. So, and the whole thing's only a couple pages. So one of the first questions, well, the first question is does the veteran qualify for a presumption of exposure for one or more of the following hazards during active service? And you've got 4 blocks there. One, it's a yes or no question, and then you've got herbicide agent, TCDD. I'll get to that. Radiation, mustard gas, nitrogen, sulfur, mustard, leucite, and the Camp Lejeune contamination. That's it. So that's what VA considers the presumptions of exposure. There's a whole lot of problems with this. Okay, and beyond that, it goes to ask about statutes, certain statutes, 1117, 1119. Those are your Gulf War vets, your burn pit exposed victims in Iraq and Afghanistan. But those are presumptions. Okay, those are presumptions of exposure, which should be up in this area and should tell VA what all those exposures consisted of. Right? I'm going to digress for a second and explain what I mean. If you've got burn pit exposure, well, I was part of a group 12, 13 years, 14 years ago now, that created VA training policy on how to adjudicate claims on burn pit exposure. And we listed every single chemical that we knew, right, burn pits produced, so that the examiners could look at every single one of those individual chemicals. That doesn't happen here. You would think, all right, Congress has now made a law that says, all right, these are presumed exposures. You know, yeah, if you get one of these cancers, you're going to get benefits. But what about if you get Parkinson's or MS or any number of autoimmune diseases? Could they be related to these exposures? Well, it's the same thing with the aircraft mechanic. You know, the development will read burn pit exposure without ever telling the examiner or the rater or anybody what that actually means. Right? What is burn pit exposure? You know, there's only, I don't know, 3 dozen carcinogens that's produced by those burn pits or more, but none of that detailed information is in here. Okay, so right off the bat, the whole purpose of getting an informed medical opinion based on known exposures, or at least exposures that VA should be conceding or are presumed, is useless. Okay, but so let me stop digressing and go back to does a veteran qualify for a presumption of exposure? And I'm just going to touch on the first one there. It says herbicide agent 2378 tetrachlorodibenzodioxin. That is the dioxin contaminant that's in Agent Orange. All right. But that's not all. Okay. That is just the dioxin contaminant. Right now, if you're in Vietnam, you're presumed exposed to that contaminant, but you're also presumed exposed to all things that are herbicide agents. And the problem with this is that's not the only herbicide agent. Okay. The VA's regulations define what herbicide agents are, and they are specifically 2,4-D, 2,4,5-T, and its contaminant, this dioxin, cocodilic acid, and picloram. Those are the agents that made up all the rainbow herbicides in Vietnam. Okay. Yet those agents are not listed on here. Okay. You would think if it's in VA's own regulations is what a herbicide agent is, and the presumption is based on all those things. And this is for the purposes of getting a medical opinion. If you need one, let's say it's not a presumptive disease. The doctor looks at this and goes, well, you're exposed to dioxin, but yeah, the veteran was also exposed to cocodilic acid, which is 30-some% arsenic. It was exposed to the other agents that made up Agent Orange, which is 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T. It was exposed to herbicide white, which is the cocodilic acid, which is not used anymore. This is just incomplete. Okay. If you're a Fort McClellan veteran, and I know you don't get a presumption of exposure, but we try like hell to ensure that VA has enough info to look at the file and realize what those exposures were. They go beyond this dioxin. None of that is in here. Okay. Um, so, and you can go down, if you can pause that, or if you have a copy of yourself, you can look at what some of these other questions are. Is there an individual longitudinal exposure record for the veteran? Okay. So right off the bat, yeah, I tied the ILER to the TERA. That's a yes or no. If you were in service a number of years, more than a couple of decades ago, you're not going to have a TERA. If you never left the States, and there could be lots of reasons you wouldn't have an ILER, I should say, in your record. So, and a VA is not supposed to take the ILER as the word of God. That doesn't mean you were or were not exposed just because there is or is not an ILER in your record. Right? It does ask if the ILER concedes, that you were exposed to something. Now, this is a newer version of this memo. It just come out a few weeks ago. It's not changed very much from the old version. The old version has been used for the past couple of years. Ask if the ILER actually shows exposure beyond the military exposure guidelines. So it limit now. Do you think DOD is going to acknowledge that you were exposed to something beyond their exposure guidelines? No, we'll get to that. And it goes on to ask if the veteran is a 1117 veteran, 1119 veteran. 1117 is a statute for Gulf War veterans, Gulf War I. That includes Iraq and Afghanistan and a number of other places. It asks about 1119. That's the statute that was created by the PACT Act for burn pit exposure or other exposures specific to serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, the global war on terror. And at the very end of this, a lot of times what we'll see in these cases, the whole thing is blank, except or answered in the negative, I should say. And until you get down to conclusion, was the veteran, did the veteran participate in a terror? And it'll say yes. But at no time in the entire memo does it explain what that terror was. Or, like I said earlier, it will simply say aircraft mechanic, which does not explain what that process is. So yeah, I'm beating up on VA. That's kind of what this video is about, because it's maddening when you're working on these cases and that there are defined exposures that this process could bring out and ensure that VA develops the case based on those known exposures. But by the time that this gets to the rater or the examiner, they don't know anything more than they did prior to the PACT Act. It's just useless information. Okay.
So Kerry, let me ask you. So you know that this is now part of the PACT Act. And when there is some kind of disease that's non-presumptive and it's required to do this TERA memo, who at VA is the person that does this? Where does it get sent to? Or is it just someone in the file that looks at service records and goes, oh, I see Vietnam service. Yes, herbicides. Oh, I see deployment. Yes, burn pits. Who fills this out at VA? And where are they getting that information from? I think that's important for our veterans to know and understand, and the veterans watching, because I think that will help segue into talking about specifics and how to get information into your file that does confirm the actual exposures that you had. So who fills this out?
That is a very, very good question. All right, so VA has this office. Not really an office, but they call it an office, called the RRC, or Records Research Center. Okay. This center was created a few years ago when DOD closed its version of the same office. There used to be an actual office in DOD, that if VA needed to go out and verify exposures to, say, herbicide agents outside of Vietnam or something, or verify combat stressors, or something like that, that needed where VA needed some info from DOD, this office was there, and that's who they would go to. DOD closed that office, and VA took over that process. All right. And this kind of goes back to the blue, if I can digress a bit, it kind of goes back to the blue water Navy development. Okay. And so that's about when this office was created, and their purpose at that point in time was to decide whether a veteran's naval vessel that they were on during the Vietnam War went within 12 miles of the Vietnamese border, or it did not go within 12 miles, because the blue water rule said if you were within 12 miles, then you were technically in Vietnam and you were exposed to herbicide agents. And so that's what this office started doing. VA come out with policy, internal policy, that said no one but this Records Research Center can make these decisions. Now, there's a lot of problems with that. One, who are they? The short answer is they're VSRs that work around various spots in the country. They might be managed by one or two spots, but they're certainly not centralized in an office. They just get assigned these issues and say, all right, do this, do the records research and tell us if the ship was in the blue water, or in this case, what's the TERA, what's the exposure. One humongous problem with limiting that decision to those folks, and we don't know how they're trained. We know they're just typical VA employees who have been assigned this function. I'm sure there's some training on researching military records, but at the end of the day, these are DoD VSR employees who had, assuming, some bit of training. But you appeal, let's say they nope, you weren't exposed, and you appeal that decision to a decision review officer who has statutory de novo review authority over that case. That means by laws passed by Congress, that DRO has de novo review. In other words, they get to look at that case anew and give no deference to anybody else that made a decision in that case. They get to decide it themselves. Well, they can't, because VA's created this internal policy that says you can't change their decision. You can't change the RRC's decision. And these people making this are not decision makers. So the problems are everywhere with how VA leadership has chosen to implement this process. Now, if you try to contact these folks, good luck. We have not been able to actually contact these folks. There's nowhere in VA's publicly disclosed information that tells us who these folks are, what the chain of command is, what the training is, and I'm sure it exists, but this should be something that's more transparent to us, and it's not.